They're all thank you, Kurt. Well, I see by the old clock on the wall that it's 7 o'clock. Call a meeting to order, Ferrisburg Planning Commission for September 5th, 2024. Roll call, please.
Chairperson Jonas.
Present.
Commissioner Carlson.
Here.
Commissioner Weber.
Here.
Commissioner Hawley.
Here.
Commissioner Schoberg.
Present.
Commissioner DeYoung.
Here.
Commissioner Tuggle.
Here.
We have a quorum, we can do some business. Some of you might wonder what I'm doing back in this chair. Well, I had a fleeting absence of mind when they suggested that, or I suggested that I want to stay on this, and Gary was very kind to let me go for another 6 months. And then they put me in this slot. So here I am. They got me for a couple more. Until you vote me off, you can vote me off too. Anyway, consideration for approval, September 5th agenda. Any additions or corrections?
No.
I move for approval. Second.
Moved and seconded to approve. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? A motion carries. Consideration for approval. The minutes of the July 25th, 2024 meeting minutes as revised. We revised under 16, we spelled Smith. And the motion passed unanimously. Oh, and Brandon McNeese, Hardwood Lane. McNeese spelled right? N-E-I, not N-I-E. If it were just Nice, it would, but maybe his name is spelled that way. Okay. If nobody has any objection, we'll take it as printed.
I'll make it a motion to approve the July 25th, 2024 meeting minutes as revised. Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next, we have on the agenda, it is time for public comments, and anything that's not on the agenda or any other topic, you're welcome to speak to this body and Mr. Messenger. And please keep name and address, please. And please keep your comments to around 3 minutes. Have any questions, direct them to me, and I'll try and get you an answer, okay?
I'm Teresa Boyer, and my address is 17537 Reindeer Street, Spring Lake, but Ferrisburg.
My name is Marilyn Nagelkirk, 16709 Lakeview, and our property goes all the way down Reindeers in that direction on the front line.
So the reason we're here is because of this short-term rental, and in our neighborhood, there's quite a few of them. It seems like every single time there's a sale, it ends up being a short-term rental again. We don't believe that the 7-day rule, they're adhering to it. We think that it's more like 3 or 4 days here and there, one rental after another. The cars are always different, like every few days, it seems like. So that's why we think that. And the garbage cans are out all the time. Cars, parked in the grass. Dogs barking in the houses.
Newest one right next door that we just found out The dog was for 6 hours during Coast Guard just barking away in an unfamiliar place.
Just things like that. And there's no, it feels like we as neighbors need to tell everybody what's going on instead of Ferrisburg actually taking care of that ordinances. That's how we feel anyhow.
You're the one that wrote us the note?
Yes,
we did,
Oh,
yes.
thank you.
So we'd like the ordinances relooked at. We'd like a percentage. I mean, we know that short-term rentals are gonna be here, but we'd like at least a percentage of rentals in the neighborhood. Right now, we have, on Reindeer Street, we have
Oh, 5?
five,
That road is little.
I think there's 12 homes on the street, and 5 of them are rentals, and there's a house for sale. And they're advertising it for short-term
Yeah,
rental.
they say Ferrisburg allows it, let it be, consider it to be a rental. People jump on it. I have
So-
older children and they're looking to buy it close to mom and dad. They don't have a shot at things half the time because people jump on them and they're bidding 4 and 5 times higher for them and they have the money. They come in with the big pocketbooks and they get them.
It seemed like there's Airbnb going on.
Yeah,
Right next door to trees. That just happened.
they're Airbnb or Vrbo. They do both, I believe. Yeah.
Okay, the city used to track those. I'm not sure if we still do,
We track rentals on the property. And
but,
then every
but
once,
we used to look at ads and for Airbnb and the online.
on occasion,
advertising.
staff goes through those to see, you know, what's being rented out there.
Okay,
You
Because-
mentioned there's 200 properties. How would you ever monitor that? And you rely on us to kind of watch what happens next door?
we have to make a count. The last count I saw was not 200, but we used to track that every year to see what the trend was before we wrote the ordinance. And it was pretty stable, but then maybe it spiked up, I don't
Oh,
know.
it spiked up.
That's
Everything
something to
sells
look
is
at. We
so-
can, what we call a heat map we put together.
Uh-huh.
And it shows on there the ones that are registered for rentals. And it doesn't show all, some of them people try to get by with. But
Right.
the key is enforcement on this. And that's something that Craig's aware of it now, and he can take it under consideration and do something. Yeah, the way the ordinance is written now, it's minimum 7 days. But we know not everybody adheres to that. It's a matter of enforcing what we have on the books.
And you can find out if there are 7 days or not by the Airbnb calendar. You can look through the calendars and actually see what days are being rented for.
That's why we'll have city staff
Yeah.
look at
Well,
that.
didn't Spring Lake
Yep.
enforce something now where they only allow a certain percentage, so they do monitor the amount of them.
In Grand Haven, it's by district too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which
It's
in
a-
our area, right where, Smith Bayou area, it just seems to be flooded with.
And you're only charging, I think it's $50 for the Airbnb or
For-
short-term rental,
That's just, all rentals have to be registered,
all rentals.
whether year-round or what, yep.
And the other cities around us is much higher than that. They're 450 or something like that. At least Spring Lake is when I looked at
Yeah,
their site.
really.
And they also charge an additional fee, but I'm not sure what that fee is for that's over $1,000. So, something to look at their ordinances online, Spring Lakes.
We'll do that. We look at Grand Haven and Spring Lake and
We're just hopeful to
Saugatuck just,
help encourage young families to come into the area.
right, Saugatuck just changed theirs. They had the same issue of concentration in one area. So when we write ordinances, we write them to reflect the conditions when we did that. It's probably 5 years ago we did that. But by monitoring, we can tell their trends and then we can react. We can always
Okay.
tweak, do this and do that. But we'll do the heat map and we'll check it.
Okay, we
Thank you.
appreciate
Okay.
it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Craig, Rental units have to be inspected, do they not?
Once every 3 years.
Oh, just once every 3 years? So there's some way you could run a check to see if these places were ever inspected, right? If they're just popping up like wildflowers, they'd probably
Yeah, we do
haven't
monitor
been.
that.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else like to speak? If not, public comments closed at 7:09. Guess where I have to put my glasses on. Okay, next on the agenda, number 6, public hearing. To consider a special land use and for a site plan approval to construct an addition to Gateway Church, parcel 700316178006, commonly known as 700 Maple Street. If approved, this will amend the Gateway Special Land Use Site Plan previously approved in 2016. And some of us remember that. Is there someone from Gateway Church here? Yes, sir. Would you like to fill us in a little bit on what your plans are? I think you were here before, right? Okay.
In the original.
Yeah, okay. And your name was?
My name's Robert Boss.
That's right. Okay.
And, yeah, we're adding, the original plans was to be larger, if you remember that, but we scaled down because of the cost. And we built for the money that we had. So, but we're growing. We need some more classrooms and time to put our, get some offices back for our pastors. So that's the plan right now going ahead.
I had a question. It looked like there's also a room for addition on that northwest side. Also, if you wanted to do the same thing, is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I think the next phase after this would be adding to the sanctuary. That was a pretty big move. But.
Another question. Looking at your plans, nicely detailed and everything.
I hope so.
Yeah, right. Had a question on the space. You have a separate restroom back in that office area,
Yes.
and there's access to that restroom from the hallway and from the office area. But I was wondering, no, there's not an access from the office area. Have you considered a small door on it would be the northeast corner of that room by the sinks? It would swing open partially, and then you could put a deadbolt on that so you could lock it at night, so somebody from the vestibule couldn't come in that way.
Yeah, I'm sure we can do that.
I'm just thinking a little privacy
Yeah.
thing going on there.
Yep.
Okay. Other than that, anybody else have any questions? Yes, we previously approved the site plan that had this on. We'll approve the amendment then.
Right.
Hopefully tonight. Okay,
Okay.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
One more question.
Yes.
You sold the old church?
We have not sold it. Well, the old church where we are on Ponaluna,
Yeah.
yeah, we rented that.
Oh, okay,
So that was rented from, I think, Fifth Third Bank.
okay.
So it's not occupied right now, it doesn't look like anyway. All right, thank
Okay.
you.
Thanks. Any other questions? Greg, did I miss anything?
Nope. I think the only question Dave had was the lighting issue.
Lighting. And that was, I think, to put the same lighting that they have on that north side. You're gonna put that on the new addition, on the exterior?
Yes, we'd be doing the same lighting on the
Okay,
addition.
okay. That'll be one very good. And it all matches. I noticed that. I think originally we had some landscaping on that north side
Yeah.
down here,
Yes.
couple of shrubs.
Yep, there's some shrubs I think there's some shrubs in there and it's, we have beach grass
Okay.
and all that's what's in there right now.
Looks nice.
Thanks.
Nicer than the old concrete plant,
Better than the concrete place, yes, I'll agree with that.
for those who remember. Okay, any other questions? If not, I'll close the public hearing at 7:15. And now, need a motion to approve or not to approve. Construction addition, I won't read the whole thing about the Sumner Maple Street Gateway Church, special land use and site plan, amendment to public, the previously site plan approval in 2016.
I would make a motion to recommend to city council to approve special land use, to construct an addition at the Gateway Church on parcel number 70-03-16-178-006, commonly known as 700 Maple Street. So to amend the Gateway Church special land use and site plan previously approved in 2016.
Actually, so does not. No. Just an amendment to this.
Oh, all right. I'm in
I will
support.
second that.
Yeah, we got, thanks. Okay, any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you. Thank you
Good
very
luck.
much.
You're a good addition to Ferrisburg.
Well, we like being here and we appreciate you guys.
You're a good neighbor. Okay,
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Oh, got it, okay.
That one was easy. Next one. Discussion and take action if appropriate to recommend to city council to approve or not to approve special land use and for site plan approval to construct an addition at the Gateway, excuse me, we just did that. We have to recommend the city. I'm sorry. The motion does include that, right? Got it. Everybody in favor of the new one? Yes, thank you. Excuse me, I'm new to this rule. Out of practice. Okay, number 8. Discussion and take action if appropriate to approve or not to approve a site plan for 4 quadplex units on the proposed 4 parcel splits on parcel number 7003-161000063, and that is where we are sitting across from now as we sit. As I mentioned, there have been a couple major suggestions on what to do with this building and the property it sits on. And one was to build a new city hall here, modify it, put Craig up in the 2nd floor office looking over everything. And it was about $3 million, I think. And we decided that wasn't gonna fly. So they're gonna convert the existing school building, Ferrisburg Elementary School, where my daughter started kindergarten in 1982. And convert this building to City Hall, plus rooms that are rented out for various purposes. It's worked out well. Oh, you still see the playground out here, and that's for the daycare. That's part of this building. The gym is rented out to the basketball people. So, but the land was sold off 8 years ago. I think it was about 8 years ago to Gracious Grounds. Gracious Grounds is going to build a facility for people who needed special needs, but be able to live in their own house because they had jobs and everything. They decided to build someplace else. So they sold the property to this Stillwater Capital. And interesting, recently, and Stillwater's come to us with a proposal on on what to do with the property. Anybody from Stillwater here? Kurt? Oh, so he's, so he thought we didn't need him? No. Okay, yes, sir. You are? Are you with the engineering company? Yes, because I tried to go to the website for Stillwater, and it takes me to Dallas. There's another Stillwater Capital in Dallas, so I couldn't find any other projects that you've done because the company's only 3 years old. Yes, yes.
I'm Megan here. I'm just representing.
Because we're live on stream right now.
I'm Megan Heritage, and I am just here representing the owner's interest because Curtis is not here, so I can answer some of the questions. Craig can be a valuable resource to you, I think, as well. And then Zach is the engineer, so he'll do the hard stuff. Stillwater is an LLC. There are multiple LLCs underneath, 4 individual projects is pretty normal. So Curtis Moran is part of Moran Properties, which you would find very quickly and easily. And they've been around for years and years and years. This particular project is apart from all of that. And so that's why we brought some building resources that you can take a look at so that you can get a feeling for what things will look like.
If you could bring those up here, please. I think everybody would be interested in that too. One thing you look at when you have a proposal like this is the viability of the project. And you like to know who's proposing what and what you're dealing with. Thank you. Good stuff. The other thing, once you try to go to your website, it takes me to Zealand Lumber. So.
Zealand Lumber is a supplier, so just like Stanford, they were also all bought by a larger conglomerate years ago. When I worked as the director of cost, all independent teams, now they're all.
Got it. And I'm sure that Craig has vetted them a little bit too, to know who they are. The water group, okay. I think that's kind of important because some people will ask the question. Okay, now, the other part of this is being developed under the Brownfield TIF program, which is tax incremental financing. And do they still want to borrow from the city?
Correct. Yes.
The sewer? A big part of this, and everybody should know up front, is that Stillwater is proposing this development and to have the city sell a bond to pay for sewer and water, which is a little over $1 million was the estimate we saw. So the city would have to bond for that. The principal and interest would be captured from the increase in property taxes. In other words, right now, they pay very little on this ground. The Gracious Grounds owned it. It was zero. It was all not taxes up property. But now that Stillwater's bought it, I'm sure you pay a little bit, but not much for fallow land. So anyway, by putting 16 residences on there, we would get, as they were being built, we would get the increase in the property taxes from each one of those to pay the principal and interest on our bond. Now, another question comes up, how much bonding capacity do we have? We might have a bridge, we got this and that. Well, at the last council meeting, there was a sheet passed out that showed that the calculated possibility for borrowing capacity for the city of Ferrisburg was $33 million. That was based upon the property tax, the formula. Right now, we're bonded for about 3, somewhere around there,
We have some indirect bonds from the water plant and the sewer plant.
right? And those are,
Nothing direct for the city.
and those are not really included in your regular bonding because you're getting income from those all along from sewer fees and water fees. But anyway, so the city is capable of doing this. It would mean that we would know who we're dealing with, and that's why I asked the question on who's Stillwater, because if we would like the project to move forward, if it didn't, I assume you default on the bonds, we put a lien on the property. Is that the way it works?
Correct, and then the developer would also provide a performance guarantee.
So, okay, so there are a number of protections on that, but that's part of the whole process. I got the advantage of being at the Brownfield redevelopment meeting when we discussed all this, so I got a head start on everybody, so but please bear with me. But anyway, I want you to know the complications on this, and then there are a lot of nuances. It's zoned correctly right now. RG3 is the correct zoning for this, so that's what Gracious Grounds was going to use. And we rezoned it from RG2 to RG3 for them about 6 years ago. So anyway, Zach, you want to tell us a little bit more about what's going on?
Good evening. My name is Zach Boovy with PK Civil. Here to talk about our site tonight. As Roger has said, it's a 4-parcel split with four unit quadplexes on each, well, one on each lot. It's kind of divided, as you can see. 2 would be off of, or accessed off of Roosevelt. 2 would be accessed off of Ridge. We're proposing that due to the unique topography and unique site characteristics of the site. One of those being the overpass ramp over US 31. It creates kind of a large discrepancy in elevation, so it makes sense to kind of wrap the road around that discrepancy. And then on the north, the property is divided by wetlands, so it kind of just makes sense to come from there to minimize wetland impact. Part of the goal tonight would be to review both the shared driveway and the fact that they are 4-unit condos. I believe each one of those items needs to be approved by Planning Commission, with it being parcel splits.
That's going to be a planning commission decision whether they approve the site plan now or if they want to go through the PUD process to approve this.
Our engineer raised a number of issues regarding how close you are to wetlands and a few things that came up on that it might require a little tweaking so you're not so close to that, and that's just kind of, you can probably fix it on there. But do you have an overview of this total property showing what the city owns and what you own? Ask and you shall receive.
Yeah. So
There's an easel
sure.
in the closet. There's an easel in the closet.
It's a moving easel.
Yep. So
Including the ball field. We own the ball field.
There's no road connecting the two, right? They're two separate
Existing or proposed?
proposed.
Area.
It-
Shared drive. Roads. Highway.
They each have individual yards, no community. Okay.
Lot size. Is 30,000 square. 63.
Can I ask you to speak in the microphone, please?
Yep. Can I?
We're trying to get this recorded.
Yep. Sorry.
I'll answer your question, so you can kind of see where the yard space is here, and then where not. Not. That was very.
Let's see. Oh, Prina Newhoff's. You got a copy of the Prina Newhoff letter.
Yes, we received the packet, the review packet on Friday. So we've digested it, but we haven't been able to update anything as of yet. So
Would it make sense to go the PUD process? To give you a little more leeway?
So I don't know if it makes sense from us. With it being kind of divided by the wetlands and with some of the financing involved with some of the units, it's almost like it's divided kind of two separate developments. I know there's a section in the ordinance about whether it's 12 units or more would fall under the PUD process, but it's really more of 2 8-unit sections.
And you're gonna divide that into 4 separate lots anyway.
Yes.
The division's okay. It still leaves enough on each lot to accommodate the units.
According to Dave, when I talked to him about it, he said it's gonna be a planning commission decision whether to go with the PUD or individual one site plan approval. His comment was that he thought it should go through the PUD process. But it's gonna be up to the planning commission. If the planning commission wanted to approve the site plan, he'd be okay with that.
So they're having done development for the past 20 years. And it had some. Part of. Having.
We'll take one.
And 4 of the units are going to be all under the affordable housing. If you're going the right route you want to, you would require to have one, but you decided that 4 would be more palatable for all of us, I think.
Right, and so obviously expense plays that. So my favorite, go ahead and make my time. So our expense that we have, our starts to, which is another reason that we're hoping that things happening at places that are not.
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay, so the BRA in October of 2023 changed, the subsidy requirements are for low income or income-based, median income-based affordability. And I'm wondering, how do they determine the number of, is it always just one?
Yes.
It's required, it's always just one bill, one,
With the change in the law last year, one's required.
no matter how many units are in the project?
Correct.
And that's at 120% of the median income, correct?
Correct.
And the median income in Ferrisburg is $67,002. So 120% of that is $80,402. That's how much someone would have to make in order to qualify for it. Okay, thank you.
I'll fight for housing forever, because I work.
Right. Yeah. Thank you.
I have a question for Craig, if I can. Craig, I know this lot has been talked a lot about the land swap issue. Do you know if the developer has been informed of this? Is there any?
As part of this development, the developer is willing to deed the city 1 acre for that conversion process.
Serving on the recreation, that's huge.
Or the garden either, because if 1 acre is proposed right next to the garden, expand the garden.
Selling point for me.
So there are a lot of complications on this, so I want to make sure that everybody understands the nuances and everything too. That's why we're asking a lot of questions, obviously. Only because we've done a lot of research and everybody has their own opinions on things too. The Prina Newhoff letter, is there anything on there that doesn't make sense to you? I know you haven't that much time to read it, but.
Nope. I think as far as the Prina Newhoff letter, everything appeared to make sense, and we're fully willing to work with staff to meet those items. There were 2 items in the whole packet that we would like to bring forward. One of those items, both the items, were from the Horizon report. The first item would be we'd like to, with financing still kind of in the air at this point, we would like to ask for some relief on section 5.60D, which has a requirement of 50% brick, base brick or stone on the fronts of the units. Currently, we've brought some materials for you to see kind of what we were thinking. On one of the books, you can see a little bit of stone on the bottom, but it isn't quite 50%. Those are kind of similar to what, at least concepts that we're considering at this point. With financing in the air, we won't really know until we kind of have more final numbers on what we can feasibly do.
Aren't there some good fake stones out there for?
So we could use some sort of vinyl product or a facade, but the ordinance specifically states that it's brick, base brick, or stone. It doesn't allow for the use of a fake stone. So that's one of the items that we would like to see maybe a little bit of relief on, maybe 20 or 25%.
Under PUD, we could talk about that, but would make it easier. The other thing I looked at is when I look at architectural features, when you first look at a piece of property, a house, what the first thing that stands out is it good looking from the outside? Which if it's good looking from the outside, chances are it'll be nice on the inside. So one color of siding is pretty bland, so you want to break that up somehow. Is there another color siding that you could put on the bottom of the front? It would make it look a little, not
Yeah.
like the brick or stone, but
Yeah, so on that little concept, one of them shows a bit of a board and batten front, and then above that, it's got more of a shake siding that kind of breaks up the front, gives it more of a character rather than just your standard horizontal vinyl siding across the front.
I don't know that you can do it with them.
that's what I'm talking about. Across the street, they didn't put a swale in though either. They're supposed to. Anyway, for drainage.
That wasn't.
I know, I just,
I'm not that girl.
I go way back. Okay. Yeah, you can see what, as you well know, if attractive properties sell better than unattractive, obviously. The other thing I noticed is, and I haven't seen this in a long time, Jack and Jill bathroom. Can you? Yep.
Jack and Jill
More flexible.
smart with this.
You have an idea of price points?
Not at this point. So, well, I mean, the fixed units, that's one thing, but
I thought you talked about the income qualified would be around 275, 300, and then the regular ones would be about 400,000, somewhere in that ballpark.
So unfortunately, last time I looked at this. Can't say one.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman. Craig, didn't you tell me that income qualified units would cost between $275 and $300? And other units will cost $375 to $400, right? That's
There
what,
was some pricing discussed, yes.
okay. So now I guess my question, can I ask a question about the bonding without sounding stupid? All right. The Brownfield Development Board said that there's the choice between going with the county or going with the city, correct?
Correct.
And if the city would say, no, we don't want to do this, I ask you if they would have the capability of going to the county over our heads, and you said yes.
Correct.
But that we would still, everything would have to be approved by us, correct?
It would have to be agreed upon. The county would approve everything and it would come to the city for the city to agree with it.
Okay, I just wondered, you know, I think the Brownfield Development said that they would prefer that it be bonded by the city.
We retain more control.
Yeah, but there would still be control even if.
They would remain, they would get some control.
I just wanted to clarify that
Yep,
because
yeah,
I think
that
it's
was a-
kind of
That's the way
confusing.
the discussion ended. I suggested county, and that's when it came back and said, well, actually, the city, Craig said the city's capable of doing it. Number one, it all ends up in this building. What goes on instead of two buildings.
And the city would capture 5% administration fee.
Correct.
5% of what? The value?
I don't know if I got that. It was
5%
around
of
$5
bond.
grand a year, as I recall.
I think it's 5% of the bond.
Okay, so that would cover staff needs and time and,
Yes.
okay, thank you.
Complicated, eh? No, piece of cake. Any other questions?
Your Honor, I have a question. Have we ever had a project like this in Ferrisburg in the past?
This has got some variations that I've not seen before. And one is the affordable housing aspect to it. Another one is, I can't recall a case where the city bonded for the water and sewer. It's usually required by the owner has to pay for that. So that's unique. What I see as a positive is that land has been vacant for all these years and we're not collecting any taxes on it. And it's been talked about, it was sold for the purpose of putting housing there. It's a question of what kind was going to go there eventually. As a matter of fact, I even had a little map out one time and I cut out those squares of where I thought everything would go back there. Room for this, room for that. It shows you, I gotta get a life, I know that. But anyway, it was kind of interesting to look at it, including making sure the ball field stayed with the city, and how would you do that? And that's, so far, plans all include that good stuff too. So the city's property stays the same, plus we gain an acre. The irony was, it's always been a brownfield back there.
I know, well, and that used to be like the cleanup and all of that, right? But the new brownfield,
It has different provisions,
yes.
right? But we declared that when we established the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority back 15 years ago, I think, we decided to include the whole city of Ferrisburg as a brownfield designation. And we followed the lead of Village of Spring Lake because they did the same thing. And but they did have some contaminated sites. We just weren't sure. We had a whole tank farm back there behind the Citgo, the truck terminal, a whole tank farm that sat there. We weren't sure what was leaking out of those. So when he took the tanks down, the land was fine. Surprise, surprise. So we thought, well, there goes the big one. But there are several other little places around that might have fallen in that. So the whole city was. What's new is that this TIF mechanism that we can use and it benefits the developer as well as, my opinion, the city. So it's a new mechanism that came to us. So,
I wonder. Have that.
If the property is given to the city, we still got, before we can get it off the conversion, the state has to approve, and National Park Services has to approve what the use is gonna be for that property. It has to be for recreational use. So I'm working with our architect for recreation, and she's working on a kind of a plan on what we could do with that property to make it a public use.
why this is important is when the fire barn property was developed, we took too much for, and about an acre away from what the original federal grant was to develop that. And this is way back before any of our times. I'm not sure how that happened, but it doesn't, beside the point. So therefore, what this does is we gain the acre back, it satisfies the national parks, and so we balance that all out, so we can apply for funds again if we ever want to. But it balances the equation now. So that's another benefit that's thrown in here that's kind of an, I've never seen that happen before either, so.
And I can speak in regards to the Parks and Rec Committee. If this situation does get remedied, we have applied for several grants that we've gotten declined because of this. So I know that we would jump on the opportunity to apply for more, so.
Basically. I that.
And there's only so much land in Ferrisburg, so yeah.
Yeah, and it's not.
Yeah.
That is part of the desire to not go. Process. I'll be honest, I don't know that I've ever. The board, so I absolutely love that.
Is the great?
Yes, it is. It's fantastic. But have not been ever. Right up for the longer it takes, you have to pay and do all of that. It does cost a lot of money of developers. Valuable. I know one of a lot of.
And this would fits right in with land that would remain part of the unused, undeveloped land as far as the city goes. It fits right in with our boundaries too, so that's good.
Proud of. Providing art, security, traveling. I've never done all of that.
And you gotta appreciate, Megan, too, that's why we're asking all these questions.
Yeah.
And that's why we bring up the architecture thing. We look at the whole project and for what's good for the city is why we're here. We're looking at that, and you're bringing us a proposal. So don't take it the wrong way because we're asking for everything we can get, and you're saying, I'll give you everything I can. So, right, so someplace where you meet in the middle, and but anyway, there's if we walk away from this, I hope, and everybody can move on.
Oh, yeah, so the second item that was in the report that we'd like to bring up is the minimum lot frontage requirement for a 4-unit building would be 175 feet in this zoning. We have one lot that is proposed as 163 feet, so about 12 feet less than the minimum. The building still fits within the required setbacks, side setbacks of 10 feet. And the reason why we proposed it a little bit smaller than the minimum is due to the wetland to the east. In order to fit that next lot over, we needed to be further west out of the wetlands.
Which building are you speaking of?
That would be if we building. So this lot is the 162, and then this one is 380 some. But down here, that frontage, that lot is a little smaller, and then this one goes all the way to the corner. So that was something that we were wondering if we would be allowed to do. If we were required to go to the minimum 175, that would push that east lot further closer to the wetlands. So.
The other thing was, these are, I don't know if you consider them HOAs, but there are fees that go because they're site condominiums where you own the building and you own the land around it, a lot, but you don't own the common area, which would be plowed by talking to Kurt, he said that the intention was to have fees paid, and then the HOA, if there was such exact, he didn't use HOA term, which I did, would be in charge of plowing, maintaining the street, and because the other question at the end of the streets, is there room for emergency vehicles to turn around? I'm not sure if there's room for a cul-de-sac there.
So that's something that we still need to look into. That was in that review package that we received Friday. We're exploring different options to whether it's a cul-de-sac, likely not a cul-de-sac, but probably a hammerhead turnaround of sorts for emergency.
The drawing that was in my packet has got hammerheads for fire department apparatus turnarounds at each end.
Yep. So we've looked at the International Fire Code and kind of exploring options. There's possibly the ability to stick the turnaround between the two units on the south, and then at the end or right before the unit, and still meet those fire codes.
Kurt said these are driveways and not city street.
Correct.
Therefore, driveways, the responsibility of the 8 owners on the driveway, correct?
Yeah, I mean, the homeowner association got in. But yes, your driveway. And those are new. What we're
Yeah, I'm asking these questions now so it'll come up later.
They will, yeah. 100%. And I couldn't answer whether or not let's make it a public space. But no. It's fine. You already said what you said. So
No, that's not.
Yeah. No.
Okay.
So we don't know what the HOA fee would be monthly or what it would include that?
So when I did the one, Robinson
So it won't be like we have trash, yard upkeep, plowing, and water because we don't have individual water. It will not be any of that. Okay, the other thing I'll just tell you is where I live, we're surrounded by forest. And it's by deed, you can never build on that. So you can protect some of that green space, can't you, by deed, by saying this will never be sold to be built upon.
Yes, but we have so little, so yes, absolutely, inside of bylaws, we can do it. I did it for Briarwood. But when it's will not allow a tree. That kind of thing.
Yeah, and then you're not taxed accordingly either. I mean, someone tried once to tax us exponentially on that property, and I told the tax assessor, it's by deed, we can't ever build on it. It was like, oh, I never would have changed it if I would have known that, so make sure they know that, because it makes a difference.
We're
I
giving-
don't know where you are, that may be a. Which is
This is mostly wetland, but you can't build on anyway.
Yeah,
Correct.
but there, I mean, I'm sure that somewhere in this area, right, there's, whatever that would be. But in association, you can't just go out in your backyard and start hacking down area. So, yeah. That would be a smart.
Yeah.
I want to know where you.
Mr. Chair, the 4 units, are they designated all in one building, or is one in each building, or how are you doing that? The 4 income units.
Yeah, I think the thought was that it
'Cause
would be.
you have to call them out, don't you, before you build and say,
Yeah,
government, this is where we're gonna do
Yeah,
it.
the thought would be they were all be in one of the 4.
Okay,
Like clustered.
That wasn't a.
the other question I had as well was, looking down Ridge Street, where the drive is, you're gonna keep the existing trees along Ridge,
That's the goal.
but looking at the contour lines and knowing that property, it's quite steep. Are we putting in a retaining wall along the road, or how are we gonna do that?
Ideally not. So we've tried to place it far enough where it's the shoulder and then down, and then that forms a natural swale with the existing contour down.
Craig,
So
did staff
part of
have
that
anything
will,
saying about that? I know we,
Review that was the engineer.
Talking about this space.
yes,
Yeah, so the more of this that can be kept, the better off we are because and privacy that it's so I mean I personally want to hang on to all of that because it's value to have them not right up on
well, it's great that everybody in their backyard is gonna have trees and green space,
different.
so, yeah.
Any other questions?
My question was, all these questions brought up by Jared, questions by the engineer, and the requirements of the fire chief and the public service supervisor, have these all been met so that we can approve the site plan?
so not yet. We just got that Friday. The submittal was several weeks ago. But we're fully willing to work with staff and meet all of those requirements. We just haven't had the chance yet. So tonight we're just looking to get approval on the concept of the shared drive and the 4 units. And then we can iron out some of the more minute details that the engineer and the rest of staff brought up.
once we approve a site plan, that's it,
Yes.
because this is all part of your site plan. And there are a lot of details to be ironed out. And I can understand why you want to move the process along. Is the list too long to be ironed out?
No, I've talked to the developer and he's willing to address every issue that's been brought to his attention. I guess my only question is, I'm not sure the planning commission can approve a site plan that has 162 feet of street frontage. I'm afraid that's gonna have to go to the zoning board of appeals.
For variance. That would have to come back to us.
Do you,
You can make it contingent on getting the zoning board of appeal and city engineer and Dave Jurzik signing off. Or else you can have it come back to you after all these items have been addressed and this lot's been, width has been approved.
would it be able to be conditioned in a PUD?
I'm sorry?
Would it be able to be conditioned in a PUD if it was that route?
No.
Still have to go to ZBA?
You could, I guess, but I'm not sure it's necessary. The variance, correct. So, I guess if planning commission is supportive of this project, you can let the applicant know that they're willing to move forward with it and improve it once you get everything lined up. And so I can try to schedule a special zoning board of appeals meeting to look at the variance for the street width. And then time we get that done, it's gonna be October, and we can have it the first meeting in October, you can have final approval if you like.
And have all our questions.
Because it's gonna take me
David
15 days
said-
to do a notice for the ZBA. Well, I think, you got support from Brownfield to move forward. You got support, it looks like you got support from the planning commission to move forward.
Personally, you have my support as long as all of these are met. Yeah. We just have a packet in front of us and we have like fire chief, do not recommend, building inspector, do not so we get that, so, but yeah, it sounds like you kind of just got this, so, yeah, just verbally, I would support this project if these are met.
The two things you said would not be met would be the ones, how big that one lot would be, or how big those would be. And then the other one was what again?
Yeah.
Okay, so in terms of like when you review the packet and look at it, those are the two things where like, maybe not. All the other ones.
Right, and we don't want something that the fire chief is saying terrible, which is not saleable, so you have to part of it is all that information. I think and trying to figure out what that right thing are and helpful.
You do understand, this is the first time this body has seen this.
I know.
And you can understand there's a lot to digest.
Yeah.
A lot of questions to be resolved. So in concept, we could say, sounds like a great idea. However, there are this and that and this and that and this and that. So, and the process is still gonna take up until our next October meeting, right? So if it came,
Next planning commission is October 3. If I could get a ZBA meeting before that time, it should be good.
so we're not delaying it that much, but if they have to go through ZBA anyway, right? By the time they come back.
So it's
You know, Mr. Chairman, if you remember with the Brockmeyer project, we did this. We
Yes.
strung this person along forever without really letting him think that this was something that could fly, and then it's holy hell broke loose. And I think it's only fair that we take that as an object lesson and give them, you know, are we gonna support this or not? And I'll be honest, when I first saw this, I was like, I believe in property rights, but I thought, gee, I sure would like to see more affordable housing. But your candor has really won me over, and I really think that I want that property developed. So you have my support as well. The rest of you I can't speak for. But you can always appeal a ZBA decision. Remember that.
We could say we support the project moving forward. Because of,
I mean, or you can say someone who strongly opposes.
is there anybody who strongly opposes?
No, but I have a question.
Sure.
Knowing that I'm a spreadsheet nerd, I would like to be able to just ask Craig a little bit about this table a little bit. Is that okay? So I'm looking at this, and I guess assuming that the properties sell for the values that this under the sales assumptions tab, and assuming that they hold their value and the market holds its value until 2039, that would pay the bond.
That's correct.
And then we would, in 2040, the city would start recapturing some property taxes.
Right, all the units that levy a tax would start collecting the full amount then.
Right. So I guess my big question, and this would be more of a city council decision, obviously, but do you feel comfortable with bonding for that when we're not gonna, those prices would have to maintain themselves for all of those years before we would come out in the green?
Based on the assumptions that there's going to be a steady increase of 2% every year, it appears that it's going to be able to pay for the bond in the time frame that's listed there.
Okay. Thank you.
Now, once we approve the site plan, then this one doesn't have to go to city council.
Once you approve the site plan, you're done with it.
Yeah. We're the only body standing in your way, right? Well, yeah, you have one more hurdle. Does it make sense to you to go to the ZBA with, say, you've got our blessing, and you can put it in those terms that we support it, but we're not ready to approve it until you go through that process, get some more answers to the Brian Newloff questions, so that we're all satisfied? Does that make sense? This is a lot for us to absorb at one sitting. I've had the advantage of going through it twice, and I still have questions. But does that make sense to you?
Yep, certainly.
Okay, because
So,
we don't.
this was somewhat intent, like our plan is even listed as a preliminary site plan. So we kind of fully anticipated some back and forth with
Sure.
staff
Sure.
to iron out the details. But as we mentioned, it takes a lot of cost to get to that final spot. And if we can show a preliminary plan early on to
Right.
understand that we're headed in the right direction, that gives us a level of comfort to spend that extra money.
But you won't know that until you go before the ZBA.
Right. And this good plan.
Right.
Have it that But, I do,
Is the planning commission okay with the facade
That's what I was
proposal?
gonna ask, yeah, when do we discuss that? We need to determine a percentage, or do we just accept what they've presented in front of us, or?
That's up to the planning commission. What kind
Okay,
of-
yeah, I feel like that.
You got a
needs-
proposal? you
It
want
sounds
to-
like zoning will control the other issue, but the facade, and my 2 cents personally, I mean, it sounds like the developer is giving a lot with the acres, so that's kind of won me over, so I'm willing to be a little more lenient with the facade, but obviously I do want it to look nice, and these are really helpful, but just, I mean, what we're seeing is just a little bit different than these, so that's, I just wanna make sure there's a continuous.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's just, I think that's one of the only renderings we were provided with.
Right.
One other thing. Or to get to 50%. So I think that there could be
It's
something
halfway.
happening. What you were talking about, solids.
Mhm.
Right.
But not big.
Right. Because you have lights on there too anyway.
I think what's gonna happen on the rear, just having development, all of this is patios and that kind of thing. You're not gonna see that kind of flat back.
No like segregation walls in between, like none of the like fencing in between.
I don't think so. Probably something that would be more like someone doing arborvitae and pots, that kind of thing, because that looks.
I just think it's some way to like break it up because it's like,
Yeah,
But-
I think it will happen more organic, moving with, things and arborvitae, because that will be there. You know what I mean? They'll still want to have bushes and pots and garden space.
Big project. For us anyway. For you, Megan, it's not so big.
I'm
Yeah.
excited.
Makes sense to me.
It's you,
Well, I
it's
did
you.
it in a way where you weren't doing housing for so long, where trees stay, wetlands, packing up.
Full disclosure, Megan and I were in Rotary Club or Grand Haven for years. Good to see you again.
But I got it. I didn't know that this is.
Yeah. I would entertain, consensus on the part of this board for you to move forward. And with the understanding that you come back to us at an October meeting and for final site plan approval. That'll give us a little, does that make sense? Consensus doesn't require a vote.
Right, I think I'm gonna just stress the need to have the facade match the expected value.
Yes.
Because we need to be able to uphold what's on that spreadsheet as best as possible.
You mean?
Yep.
Yeah, and I may be able to help with inside of the system.
I just know the market is so high right now, it concerns me that down the road, we can't have that expectation that's gonna stay this high. So I guess that is my concern, looking at the spreadsheet and knowing that the city isn't gonna be recouping money for over 20 years. So, and I feel like, us as just an advisory body, I'm usually expecting city council to make these type of decisions that involve finances.
That has to sort of not out there, right? But I feel like
Even though we're an advisory body, if we approve this, this all comes back to us. And it's a big decision for us to make. We're taking it seriously, obviously, but we have consensus for you to move forward. And hope to see you back here in October.
Thank you all.
Thanks. Good luck with the ZBA. I wish I was on that one, but I'm not.
I'll be there, and it'll be my first
Heather is
meeting.
on
Well,
there.
it could be my second. Are we gonna have two this month now? welcome to ZBA.
Thanks, Roger.
We really appreciate your service.
I think this meant, I mean, same amount, right?
A brand new-
7?
a
Are
brand
there
new-
7 on ZBA?
5.
Oh, 5. Perfect. 5.
Thanks. That's a big one. That is a big one, and it's a lot to absorb in a short period of time, so I appreciate everybody's interest and questions and everything else that goes along with this.
Appreciate Craig because I bugged him all day. I kept emailing him questions.
That's oh,
Well, some of it, but I'm a librarian, a lot of research.
Okay.
too.
yeah, I got my packet on Tuesday. Yesterday?
Yeah.
Ooh. Anyway, okay. At this point, work session on master plan, I'd like to give this some discussion tonight. We still have some time. And so let's, I didn't see David provide us anything for this month.
Just that toolkit. There was a link that we sent out.
What was it?
It's just basically different zoning ideas that you could use to increase density, change your zoning districts to allow, duplexes in the RG1 zone district and so forth.
I didn't get that. Everybody else get one?
No one got one, which is a link. Dave sent the link out. Did I send you the link?
Didn't see it.
Oh,
Yeah, I didn't.
I sent it Friday around 5 o'clock.
We decided to do a review and not a rewrite of the plan, so even though I have more suggestions, it probably is too much for this go around on this thing. So we talked about updating the statistics for demographics and those other issues that we had on there as much as possible. And I suggested, and I think you had, is that staff member that put together that, how many miles of this and that and everything else?
Yes.
Who is that?
She's an intern from Grand Valley this summer.
I did have a question on there. That was I'm on a frontage on Spring Lake. 15 miles. $13 miles of waterfront. Now, I think she included the Grand River in there, which is a separate body of water. That's still a lot. Spring Lake is 7 miles long. Must be the whole bayou, this bayou, the other two bayous. That's a lot compared to only a mile of Lake Michigan. which I'm surprised at. The other thing that was significant is, we've talked about this a number of times, and I think this should be pointed out in the master plan. And as the amount of space it's not taxable. In the city, it's 31% now. Wow. Now, out of that, we can back out parklands alone at 26%. Then you throw in churches, and the city owns a lot of little spurs and Maple Street extensions, and we closed a lot of these street ends and given them up, but we still own a lot of little stuff. But anyway, almost 500 miles of parkland. Now, excuse me, 500 acres. I got miles and acres. 500 acres of parkland. Now that, for a city of our size, I think is pretty doggone significant. And I think that ought to be pointed out. And I think we can call ourselves the city of parks instead of a bedroom community. That's a sticking point in my well anyway. But I think changing the theme in the entrance to introduction to our city, I think is important to point things like that out, because that goes right back into the miles of bike path that we have, other activities, but it all goes together.
Ferrisburg have a tagline?
Sorry?
Does Ferrisburg have a tagline? Like, I know when you drive through Spring Lake, I think it says like, something smiles for 7 miles.
Or nature smiles.
Nature smiles for that, driven by that 100 times. No?
Jingle.
Yeah, we get a slogan.
And Roger, I mean, speaking to your point, I feel like when we do these community surveys, like, yes, I know that Ferrisburg has been called a bedroom community, but I'm seeing, when I looked at our results, a lot of parks are being highlighted, and that is something that our residents are proud of. So I think it is changing for the better.
The surveys show that people call the bedroom community. I know that.
Yeah.
And that's what their
Yeah.
perception is. And
You're going to get the same people that are probably saying that every 5
I'm
years.
trying to change the narrative. I think we're, especially with all those sands thrown in there now, that's, in my opinion, huge. And I'm not sure that's open for the yurts yet, but we're having a meeting out there in 2 weeks. And next week, they've been asking me to do part of a documentary on sands, since I was on planning commission at the time that was acquired. We had grandiose plans for what to do with that property. And at the time, it wasn't a park, wasn't a sand mine, but it was a lot of beautiful homes around the lake. But anyway, I think we're good off, well off of it. So that was my only point on. We're known for something. We're not the tree city. We're not tulip city. We're not evergreen city. We'll have a contest. October meeting. Want everybody come in with 2 suggestions, and we'll vote on them. Or have your kids come up, even better. They're good at it. But okay, homework assignment. Anything else on the master plan? I thought about changing the formats even more, but then if this is a review and it's not a rewrite. So
I just had a couple of housekeeping things on there, which I'm not sure, maybe David has already gone through, but some of the things on the to-do list that have already been done, we can move. And then there was also something that I realize this is probably more of a city council thing that they may have to take up, but I think at some point we have to address this discrepancy of RG1 of being different in the master plan versus the ordinance. And I'm guessing that probably has to be fixed with city council fixing the ordinance versus us changing the master plan.
I think there was a typo in the master plan.
Well, I feel like it's a typo in the ordinance because there's no differentiation between RG1 and RG2. They both say 6, where our master plan says 3, and RG1, 6, and RG2. So I feel like it's a typo in the ordinance.
Fix that with a text amendment. But you can take that, or if they're so incompatible, if one looks like it's way off,
Yeah. Dave was gonna look at that PUD ordinance and change that a little bit. So we'll be bringing that to the planning commission here too.
And it's right in the zoning ordinance where it says RG1, 6, RG2, 6. So I feel like it's just an obvious error. But I feel like the master plan is correct.
it should be consistent, yes. Confuses people.
It's confusing to us, to anybody coming.
Right. Anything else on the master plan? Right now, 2 suggestions, next meeting. Logan, something we put on our signs. I want this welcome to Ferrisburg. Or Ferrisburg, next 2 exits. Seriously, we get 2 exits. Spring Lake.
Is the first one downtown Ferrisburg?
Yeah, right?
To be determined.
That's the second one, downtown Ferrisburg, next exit. Motel. Restaurant. Boiler manufacturing. Okay, if nothing else on that, we'll hope Dave is at the next meeting and take a lead on moving that to the, I'm still got, my goal is still December. Okay, and I think we can do it with minor changes. Is to have it moved to, in draft form to city council by December. The end of the year, because after that I'm gone. All things considered. Okay, that's all I had on that. And next on the agenda, public comments. Terry, anything? Good.
Started, haven't finished.
After seeing us operate again, you still want to be on this board? Could always back out, you know. Okay. Very good. Zoning administrator's report.
No report?
Chairman's report. I have nothing I mentioned about Ottawa Sands, the documentary, and also we're having another meeting out there. I'll report back on that in October. I think that's all I had. Members reports. Heather?
I'm excited for my first CBA meeting, and I'm excited that I get to represent us, and we've got a big, I mean, this is the first one that's coming, project that's coming here that's gotta go to CBA. So,
And you'll
maybe
have
I'll have
all this
some
big
input.
story to tell them and convince them that this is the way to go. And they're all reasonable
I'll
on the
try my
ZBA.
best.
Those are all reasonable people.
I'll try my best.
Sandy?
No report, but I'm just thankful you're hanging in here with us for a little bit yet.
Yeah.
No report, I've talked enough tonight.
No report.
Nope.
Very good. Well, that meeting's adjourned. The next meeting is October 3, you said? Good. October 3. And that's this year. Got it. Okay. Okay. Well, just barely by 8:30. Not as fast as city council, but here we get more done. And thanks, everyone. Good meeting.
Once it gets to be an hour and a half.
Oh, well, Has he been in the area?
That's where you don't know when I look at this.
Have a good night.
10-4.
Hope it's not raining.
Roger,
got
are
my
you
coat.
going to that meeting at Ottawa Sands, some open house or something they're having? When is that?